President Bola Tinubu has appointed a board members and management team for the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. According to a statement by presidential spokesperson Ajuri Ngelale, Chiedu Ebie was appointed the chairman of the board of the commission, while Samuel Ogbuku is the managing director and chief executive officer, CEO.
According to the president, the new board and management team will ensure a new era of successful administration in the NDDC, in line with his renewed hope agenda. But there has been concerns raised on the activities of the NDDC in the past, especially with funds management. Let's now bring in Opunabo Inko Tariah. He's a political analyst and former special advisor to Nyesom Wike. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. You've heard of the board that has been set up, the chairman and the members of the board, and the concerns have been raised, of course, as regards management of funds in time past. Is that a concern that you still have?
Of course, that's a concern that I still have. Like I always say, there is duplication of office. You have the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, you have the NDDC. I mean, it's not completely necessary at this point in time. All you need to do is to empower either the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs or the NDDC to perform its functions. You don't have to have the two ministries, or the agency and the ministry. It's duplication of office. And what they do most times is that they appoint their cronies. That's what you get. So you find out that even as MD or chairman of NDDC, you get notes and orders from the villa, from senators, and so on. And so you're just there serving the interests of a microscopic few, that is the senators, the ministers, the presidents, and so on. And rather than doing the job that you're appointed to do, which is development of the Niger Delta area. So you find out that NDDC, from the day it was established to today, has really done nothing to address the nagging problems of the Niger Delta. And you find out that certain persons are made rich. Like we have the case of a former senator, I think he's a former senator, is still there, who was given contracts of about 200 and something thousand from the NDDC. I made a lot of money from the NDDC. And that is all they do. So if the NDDC is meant to, all they do, for example, is maybe they construct a road. They use cement to construct a road, a small road, use cement to so much is being spirited out of the system with little or nothing to show for.
Yeah.
And you have a situation where the NDDC is under the Niger Delta Ministry. Like in the days of Akpabi, you have the NDDC under the Niger Delta Ministry. So you duplicating our office. And this is just to serve as a Fabian policy. Because Niger Deltas have cried out to say, oh, we have been marginalized, we need a commission, or we need an industry, it was non-patek, now NDDC, then now you have the Niger Delta Ministry. But there is no sincerity of purpose on the part of government. Okay, if this is what you need a particular commission, now you have them in the north. You need a particular commission to address the problem, we are going to set up that commission to address it. But the commission should be responsible, will be answerable to us, will be beholden to us. And the whole essence is to deceive the Niger Delta that there is a commission to address their problem, whereas it is to serve the interest of just the microscopic few. So the whole essence of the setting up of the commission or the setting up of the Niger Delta Ministry is being negated.
All right. Of course, you know, for those who have followed the NDDC's history, trillions of naira, trillions have passed through the NDDC in the last, 20, 30 years, with, like you said, not very much to show for it. People would always point to other countries that have oil and say, Nigeria, is this not your mate? But of course, the NDDC story is totally different. The current Senate president was Minister of Niger Delta, I believe, at some point, but is now the Senate president. But now let's talk about the...
Fraudulently Senate president.
Yeah,
Fraudulently Senate president.
Oh, well. Let's talk about...
We all know how it bet.
Well, those are your opinions. So let's talk about Chiedu Ebie.
Yes.
He's the current chairman of the board of the commission. He, of course, was an entrepreneur and then worked with the Delta State government as a commissioner. Do you know much about him and his personality? And does this in any way bring some good news to the NDDC and to the people of the Niger Delta?
You see, it has nothing to do with the person. Let me put it that way. Your hands are fettered as a member of the NDDC board. So it really has nothing to do with how good you are or your antecedents. No. You see, certain agreements are reached. There are certain unwritten agreements. As a member of the NDDC, during the elections, you're made to sponsor the president's candidates in the state. These are clear facts. And I have enough to bolster those assertions. You are made to sponsor. The route they run through the NDDC, and the NDDC chairman or the NDDC board is meant to sponsor certain candidates in the state. That is what they do during elections. So it really has nothing to do with your antecedents or how good your intentions are. It has to do with the system. You have institutionalized corruption that is taking place. We have the issue of the former MD of NDDC. What happened during the Senate screening or the interrogation? What happened? When he fainted, and that was the end of it. The whole matter was settled under the carpet. Talk of his predecessors and so on. So it really has nothing to do with the person. Even if you have good intentions and you've been appointed as a member, either the General Director of Finance Administration or the MD of NDC, you are beholden to a system, particularly the presidency, and they are the ones to dictate to you what to do. It's either you agree with them or you fall out. And by falling out, it's either you resign or you're being kicked out by the system. So it has nothing to do with antecedents. That's the point. And that's the sorry state of the NDDC. It has nothing to do with antecedents. It has nothing to do with the credibility. It has to do with doing the biddings of what those who are the appointers, those who appointed you, want you to do.
All right. Let's talk about rotational leadership. There's a group within the All Progressives Congress that have said that they're not in support of the recent appointments made in the NDDC, especially with regards to managing director, saying that it's the turn of the Ondo people to be the MD, to be the leadership of NDDC, because it's been with Bayelsa for the longest time. And they're calling that in the interest of fairness, that Ondo State should be the one at the helm of affairs this time. I'd like to find out what your thoughts are on this.
Well, no doubt, you share the NDC. You have Ondo, you have Bayelsa, you have Rivers, you have Cross River, and so on. The thing is being shared, no doubt about that. So if the Ondo people today are advocating and saying, oh, it is their turn, of course they have a right to so do. But you see, it's beyond the turn. That's what they fail to understand. It has to do with somebody that is going to do the bidding of Mr. President, or his loyalists, his acolytes. That's like, excuse me, you have the Minister for Special Duties, you have the Minister for FCT, you have the Minister for Niger Delta, and so on. It has to do with who will do the bidding of the president or their cronies. It really has nothing to do with where you come from. The Ondo people are right. You have to go to Ondo State, no doubt about that, if you're talking about equity, fairness, and justice. But it's beyond equity, fairness, and justice. It has to do that. In that case, you're talking of competence now. But in the issue of NDDC appointment, you're not talking of competence. You're talking of mediocrity as against meritocracy. That's what they fail to understand. So it has to do with who will be there in our own image, and not who is supposed to be there, but who will be there in our own image. And they consider this man competent to be there in their own image because it's going to represent their interest, the microscopic interest, and not the general interest.
Well, I think that there might also need to be conversations as to why Ondo is in the NDDC. Maybe ignorant conversations, but still, because it's called Niger Delta.
Ondo is in the NDDC. Why Ondo is in the NDDC is a different ballgame altogether. You have the oil-producing areas, you have the just-looking areas, no doubt about that. But that's a different ballgame altogether. That's a different argument. Yeah. But for now, it is a member of the NDDC, and it ought to produce a chairman.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying, that's a totally different conversation. The people of the Niger Delta, you're in the Niger Delta, you're from the Niger Delta. Do you feel betrayed by the NDDC? I know that from your analysis, you understand how it is, it serves only a certain political class and serves political interests. But do the people feel betrayed with the NDDC as much as they, should, and also feel betrayed, by their state governments and local governments? The Niger Delta, to a large extent, should be one of the richest and the most beautiful places in Nigeria, seeing the amount of wealth that comes from the Niger Delta. There's arguments as to mineral resources in other parts of the country, in Zamfara and the likes. But that's a different argument. Do the Niger Delta people feel betrayed by the NDDC?
Oh, yes, I can tell you, we feel betrayed by the NDDC because, like I described it, it's a Fabian policy. What's a Fabian policy? It's a policy that is like a strategy that is used to tire the opposition. It's as if you give the impression that you're doing something while in actual fact you're not doing anything. And that is the whole essence of the NDDC, that's the whole essence of the amnesty program, that's the whole essence of the Niger Delta Ministry. You don't need NDDC and Niger Delta Ministry. It's either you're having an NDDC or you're having a Niger Delta Ministry. You don't need the two. But the whole essence is to delude the Niger Delta people that, look, we have to work, whereas they are not doing anything. You have an NDDC boss, first he thinks of his own pocket. Then he thinks of all those that are responsible for his being there. So he's answerable to them, he's beholden to them, and not to the masses and not to the Niger Delta region. So you find the whole job. If, for example, you have to do, the whole essence of NDDC is to resuscitate the Niger Deltas and also turn the whole place into what you can call a small Dubai. That's the whole essence. Because of the oil that is being exploited and explored, to exploit from the country, from the region rather. So the whole essence is to turn into a little Dubai, so that much is taken from the system and much is also given to the system.
Okay.
That's the whole essence of NDDC. But right now, that is not what we get. You find that much is taken from the system and little is given back to the system. And the much that is taken from the system is taken by those that are not even from the Niger Delta in collaboration with those from the Niger Delta. So
right.
That you have a note from the president, you have a note from the minister, you have a note from the senator, you have a note from the House of Reps. They all get notes and they go to the NDDC, get this contract, and the contract are never executed. So the whole essence of setting up the board is negated. And the very MD or the executive director of finance gets his own share because it's being protected by the marketable few. So he gets his own share. So the whole essence of the setting up the NDDC is defeated. And that's why a lot of the Niger Deltas are not happy.
All right.
So it's not about money, it's about the person, the character, the president himself.
All right.
Inko. President.
Okay,
yes.
We've run out of time, but I just want to ask you in 5 seconds, a yes or no answer. The Niger Delta NDDC forensic report, there was a committee that was set up to look into that in the last administration, and sometime in 2021. The women leaders in the NDDC, Niger Delta, have called for these reports to be made public. Do you think this will happen? Yes or no?
No, it will be made public, like every other report.
Okay, all right.
Because of course, all hands are soiled, all fingers are soiled.
Well, I'm sure that this is another conversation we can dig deeper into much later. Thank you so much, Inko, Tariah, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.